and welcome to another episode of The Word for Kids. I'm Jamie, and I'm guiding you through the books of Joshua, Judges, and Ruth in a series of 20 episodes. Last time, we talked about how Joshua led the Israelites to camp beside the Jordan River, and after camping for 3 days, had the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant go to the river. As soon as they touched the water's edge, all of the water stopped flowing and piled up near a distant town. The priests stood in the middle of the Jordan River on dry ground, and all the Israelite people passed right through it on dry ground as well. And that's where we left off last time. Are you ready for today's adventure? Let's go! When all of the Israelites had passed through the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you will stay tonight." So Joshua appointed one man from each of the 12 tribes to carry a stone from the middle of the Jordan to the place where they would camp that night. This would serve as a sign for them. The place where they camped was called Gilgal, which was on the eastern border of Jericho. He told them, "In the future, when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever." Let's pause right there for today's word of the day.
The word of the day is memorial, an object, event, or place that helps people remember a special event or person. Memorial.
A few episodes ago, we talked about the tribes of Reuben and Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh that Moses had made an oath with. They were to cross before the Israelites to help them fight for the promised land, even though they had already received their own land. And they did here as they promised Moses they would. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. The priests stood in the middle of the Jordan with the Ark of the Covenant until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was finished. That day, the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant law to come up out of the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, "Come up out of the Jordan." So the priests came up out of the river, carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord as the Israelites watched. No sooner had they set their feet on dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage, just as before. When the people had done as Joshua told them, he set up the stones at Gilgal as a memorial just as God had commanded him. Again he told the people, "In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God.' And the stones are still there to this day." On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. And that's where our story ends for today. Now it's time for today's verse to remember. Our verses for today talk about the memorial the Israelites made after crossing the Jordan, and what it's meant to remind us of all these years later. Joshua 4:21 through 22. He said to the Israelites, "In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground.'" One more time. He said to the Israelites, "In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground.'" Joshua chapter 4, verses 21 and 22. That's all the time we have for this episode, but until next time, think about something you can use as a reminder of God's power and how much you can trust Him. One thing we have that is a great reminder is our Bible, but you could also draw a picture, collect some rocks, or think of some other way to set up your own little memorial of how God has been with you in your life. I can't wait to see you again soon for another episode of The Word for Kids.